Hey everybody, welcome back to Bonsai Tortoise. Today we're defoliating and repotting this Ficus Microcarpa Banyan style bonsai. I've had this tree for about 7 or 8 years. It has great aerial roots. It's what you would call the Banyan style bonsai. It's been in this pot for probably about, I think at least 2 years, maybe 3. It's time for a repot. So obviously it's got all these really cool aerial roots all around. This one needs to be at least defoliated. You can see it's got some excessive growth going on because it's springtime up here where I am. Just some excess growth here, excess growth here. This past winter I lost a good sized branch right here that came out here, and it really showed kind of some more, the branches were more even, but it still looks good the way it is, so I'm not too worried about it. So let's get to work. We'll start defoliating and go from there. Really the only reason to defoliate is to increase the ramification, to decrease the leaf size, and to get a lot more buds. So once this tree buds back, I'll have better branching in the end. The leaf should be smaller, which makes it look like a thicker, fuller tree, and you get the leaf size that you're really looking for. So you're going for taper and ramification. So ramification is when you have a branch that goes from here to here, and then splits again. That's good ramification. That really shows dense branch growth. This branch here has a ton of branches on it, but what I'm trying to figure out is which ones I want to keep. I could get rid of that and just leave this here, this, and this. But that'll give me good ramification because then you already have this branch splitting here and here, and then this branch here and here, and hopefully these two eventually will split, and so will this. And this other branch here that's already here and kind of splitting on itself, that won't be there, so the energy will go to these two side branches here. And just defoliate the rest of it. When I'm defoliating on most of these branches, I'm cutting off the leaf, the end bud, the leaf bud at the end. So now here, I have this one branch that comes up, it splits here and here, and then this one here splits again, there and there, and hopefully this one here and this one here will split again, and that'll be good ramification, in theory. So I'm pretty much done defoliating this tree, but for now I'm going to take this wire off, and then we'll just go from there. Well, at least somebody's having fun. That's Bumpy with one of our females. I believe that is Woody. And they're doing what they do to make tortoise babies. So right now I'm looking at this branch here. It's long, it's lanky. This branch here has no ramification. It's thin, obviously no taper. And the reason for that is because it's shaded from these branches here, and it's towards the back. So this is the back of the tree. I've been thinking about getting rid of this whole entire branch for the past couple of years. So I'm going to cut this branch off. You want to make sure those cuts are as clean as possible on the big cuts so it heals properly. So this branch is gone. I cleaned that up a little bit, so I'll probably put some cut paste on there. So I put some seal on that. That would really mess up the look of the whole tree if this branch went. So just to be safe, I'll put that on there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to repot this tree, and then we'll wire and cut off any other branches that we don't want or need after that. We'll go from there. That's the first thing we do. Cut these wires off the bottom, and we'll see if it'll come out. So you can use either one of these, a root rake or a chopstick. I prefer the chopstick. If I have to get in there with the rake, I will. But all I'm doing is just separating these roots out. I don't jab at the soil. I basically just pull the soil away from the roots very gently with the chopstick. In certain cases, I will get the rake just to kind of gently get some of this out of there. But you don't want to go crazy with the rake. Got some bad weeds in here. Look at that. It's nasty. So you can see I'm lightly going with the root rake here. If I feel any resistance, I stop. But if I go back further here, it's a little bit more impacted. So I'm going there with a chopstick. Basically, try to work from the outside in. At least what I try to do. What you're looking for when you go to pot these trees up, one of the reasons we use this inorganic, mostly inorganic soil, is it promotes this really hairy, fine root growth, which that's what you want underneath to help grow the tree better. So you can see this tree doesn't have much of an abari. It does have one half decent sized root right here coming off the bottom there. But it's too low in the ground. If I were to raise this up to show that root, these aerial roots here, the root growth on them is too fine. They wouldn't reach the ground. They might shrivel up and die. And to me, I prefer having these aerial roots. I like the aerial roots. So I'll probably repot it basically in the same height that it was in the tree before. So there's not much root pruning I have to do on this tree. But just with ramification of the branches, there's such thing as ramification of the roots. So as I cut these roots, like right about here, hopefully these roots will split again more, which creates more fine root growth. So there's not much that had to be done. There's no real big, thick, heavy roots. I mean, there's one here that's going to go underneath, but that's connected to an aerial root that I don't want to mess up. Pot's washed. We're ready to go. Okay, so this pot has 2 large drainage holes in the bottom, right here, and 4 holes for tie-down wires. You should really cover all these with drainage screen, because these ones for tie-down wires are pretty big. Most pots have them just a little bit thicker than the tie-down wire. These are pretty big, so we're going to make sure that we have drainage screens for all of them. Okay, so I just form a loop. Put that in there, and bend those 2 over. The purpose of the drainage screen is to make sure the soil doesn't get washed out of the pot when you water. You just got to make sure they're secure in there when you're repotting. So I think this is about 2.5 gauge wire that I use for my tie downs. You should really tie your tree down in the pot. A good stiff wind or a squirrel or something else could really knock that tree pretty easily out of the pot. We're wired. Okay, we have our pot ready to go. We have our soil. So what I do is I get a nice even layer on the bottom, and then a nice mound or a hill right around where that tree is going to sit, the main trunk of the tree is going to sit. You got to make sure that you find your front. It's good to get down and kind of look. You really want to take your time to find the front. This is not something you kind of, because it's going to go in there, it's going to stay in there for a while. You don't want to have to go repotting halfway through when it should come out. Okay, so you kind of just push it in there and twist it down. Okay, so I like to put a layer of soil down before I tie it down. Get your chopstick and get that in there between those roots. This soil is made up of 1/4 red lava, 1/4 Tortoise, 1/4 Akadama, and 1/4 pine bark fines. Okay, so before I put the rest of the soil on, I'm going to tie this tree down. And I want to make sure, I don't know if you remember, you can't see it now, but right here there's a big honking piece of tree or root that kind of goes down and over like that. It comes out to about right here. I want to make sure my tie downs go over top of that for stability. The most stable tie down is taking one wire and wiring that together with the end of the wire opposite of that. And then you bring the other two, do the same thing. So basically they tie together, and when you tighten one side, they tighten each other. I think that's actually pretty good. But we're not done. We still got to put more soil in, we got to fertilize it. So, I'd rather use the organic stuff, especially with the tortoises that I keep. I don't want any chemical stuff coming in contact with them because they share this space in the greenhouse. I work the fertilizer into the soil so the roots have better access to it, and so you don't see it on top. Also because the organic fertilizer tends to go moldy a bit under moist or humid conditions. Alright, time for the remainder of the soil going in. So the soil is in, the tree needs to get watered. On a repot like this, I water really gently and just do it until the water coming out the bottom starts to run clear. Okay, so I spent probably the past 20 minutes just looking at this tree to see what I want to do with it. And since I switched this front a little bit, this branch now is in the way. If you recall, I had the front was somewhere around there. And this branch I had actually had a guide wire on it, pulling it back this way. The way it is in the pot now, this branch now kind of sticks in your face. So I'm pulling this branch over. I don't necessarily like how it crosses these aerial roots right here, but if it bothers me that much later, I can always just clip it off and the tree will still be fine without it. So I'm going to start out with some 6-gauge wire here. This is an old branch, so while ficus are really forgiving and you can really bend these branches anywhere you want, even these older branches, they once they get older, they tend to get a little bit more brittle. So if this were a newer branch in this size, be no problem. I can get it over there, no issue. But this is an older branch, so it's going to be a little bit more brittle, so I got to be a little careful with it. Especially when bending a big branch like this, you want to make sure you're holding the wire in place and kind of put your two thumbs where you want that bend to be. Make sure you're paying attention to any cracking that might happen. Don't force it. I don't love it, like I said, I don't like how it crosses these aerial roots right here. So I might get annoyed with it and cut it off, but this gives me at least some time to see if I like the overall shape once the leaves come back up. Alright, let's go back to wiring the rest of this thing. There's some branches that I might cut off. Little branches that are going straight down or straight up. This whole branch right here has pretty good ramification up here. This needs some work, but it's got good taper coming from this thicker branch to a thinner branch to even thinner branches up here. But just as an example of branches you want to get rid of, this one that pretty much goes down right here. Now if I didn't have any other branches to work with, I could probably wire that up, but I have plenty of branches, so that's a branch that just gets in the way, and you don't really need it, especially on this type of tree. Okay, so I went through it, just a cursory look, just to see what I wanted to get rid of. Not all that much. I'm going to start wiring these now. I want these to come down a little bit, kind of more flat. Same thing over here, until we get a gradual arc up. There's other branches like right here I might want to bring down or get rid of. This tree is finally at the point where I have the ramification and branch structure that I need to basically make respectable pads out of the branches. I'm hoping that when it leaves out again, you see somewhat defined pads and some layering in the leaf structure. If that happens, the end result will be a tree that if you basically imagine yourself sitting under it as a fully mature tree, but it's actually a miniature size in a small pot. In this section right here, I'm trying to get all these branches to come down more flat, right? So all these main branches here are going to get wired down to this level. So I didn't do a lot of wiring. I'll take you in a little closer. You can see over here I have a pad here. This branch that I pulled over, that'll be a pad. I have another pad here. There's a pad around back. But I didn't do much fine wiring. Just on these heavier branches here, I brought them down a bit. I could have spent a lot more time wiring this if I wanted to, but that's kind of a rabbit hole, and especially when you get with Ficus, you can just wire and wire, and then you'll regret it later because there's so much wire on there, when it really wasn't necessary. But I did pull some branches down, like this one here. This was sitting straight up, and so that one's down here, filling in this gap right there. I'll show you around back. I pulled all these branches down, so that'll be a nice pad there in the back there. And we'll see how much I like this branch. I don't think it looks that bad. Like I said, it does cross these aerial roots there, but I guess there could be worse things. So thank you for watching. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again. Bye.